If you heard about me from part one, welcome back. This is part two. So, I'm living with my mom, Central Jersey. A little bit into when we were leaving Little Falls, she met another guy named Tony, who I wasn't really sure about yet. I knew I liked him, I knew he was pretty funny, but I wasn't really sure about him yet. He just passed away today. He was cremated, and we had a service today. My wife and I went down there to attend the service and have a repast with my mother, who is all by herself now. But I was about 15, 14. And I met a few cool friends. This girl, Stephanie, that I always liked, but I never saw her again. Another friend that was really close with me all through high school. I always made friends with everybody, wherever I went. I was just likable. Got along with people, made conversation easy. It's because I really, really cared. I really cared about everybody, about everything. And made another really, really close friend. Her mother passed away, and I was there for it. Through everything, everything. Went to high school together. She was kind of an outcast, a rebel. And she was also friends with my nympho ex, the one that got away. It's kind of how I met her, too. Everybody told me she was bad news, but I went for her anyway. It's because I'm stupid, and I'm a hopeless romantic. But you live and you learn. Oh, nonetheless, I moved out of my mom's house when I was about, I want to say 20, something like that. I had a job at a storage facility. I really liked it because I got to spend most of the time by myself, but sometimes by myself meant extreme anxiety. Everybody's got something out for me. No, I'm just kidding. Not really that bad of anxiety, but bad enough to make me feel like my whole world is crushing in around me. Type of anxiety. Especially when I was in work. Depression, anxiety, and work do not go hand in hand. Well, when I moved out of my mom's house, I got right into my car and I just sat somewhere. The first person I could think to call was a person that I met not too long before. offered me a place to stay if I ever needed it. He turned out to be one of my first lessons in real life. Don't trust everybody and expect the worst. I moved in with him because I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't experienced in life. I wasn't taught ahead of time how to do anything in life. So I moved in. The plumbing was messed up. It was a little bungalow out back of some guy's house who was an alcoholic and was perpetually writing a mob fiction novel, while every other day coming and kicking in our door. For a while, since I was going with it still, I still hadn't conquered my depression at this point. So, I'm living with him. Picks on me, makes fun of me. I'm basically subletting because he's renting this place as a place to stay from this guy. And then we're paying him on the side. And I didn't even realize at the time that there was a certain thing called subletting. It's around the same time that all those people in Central Jersey accused me of doing hard drugs when I was really just working on my weight. See, I had lost somewhere around 100 pounds by walking to and from the entertainment center down the street, sometimes even to and from work. And that was a long, long walk. It was like 45 minutes. But I walked. I didn't care. I got into shape. I saw my ex again, the one that was a nympho. She was addicted to pain pills, synthetic heroin. And I think for the first time, I felt real emotion, like something broke through my wall. And it was because I got the chance to talk to somebody and try to help them. Something I never had the chance to do before. And it felt good. It felt good trying to help people. But I just wasn't experienced at life. I was a child of a closed mind. But yet again, I would end up being thrust into a world that would chew me up and spit me out. I went to go live with my father, out of my mom's request that I get out of that area. Because that area, someone broke in 6:30 in the morning to our little bungalow. My roommate had been kicked out, and another guy moved in. He had schizophrenia. Well, my roommate went to jail because he right-hooked the landlord over an argument. And he called the cops. They came and arrested him. My new roommate and I took all of his stuff, piled up into a nice pile, so that when he came back for it, he'd have it all ready for him. And we didn't want to be accused of touching any of his shit either. So we moved it into the little storage shed across the way, with the new landlord's permission. Well, turns out he contacted his brother, who had a rap sheet longer than my leg. 5, 6 pages. And came by with a gun. A fake gun. But we didn't know that. It was painted to look like a real gun. Or something like that. And when he cocked it, it sounded like a real thing. Well, he held us at gunpoint for a couple hours, beating the shit out of my roommate, schizophrenic one. Meanwhile, no real emotion being showed by me. I'm just standing there kind of in disbelief that I'm in this situation in the first place. And he turns the gun to me. And he says, I'm not even going to hurt you because you've been a good boy throughout this entire thing. And you haven't even said a word. So either I have respect for you, or you're stupid. And I kept my cool during that whole thing because of everything that I had already been through in my life. That's the truth. I kept my cool and didn't lose my head because I had already been through hell from everything that I haven't even mentioned yet. Well, he and my ex-roommate's girlfriend and his brother were there. And she was laughing the whole time. Evil, maniacal little blonde-haired bitch that she is. I hope she's suffering right now. Because she contributed to the first stage of my life, falling to shambles. I was forced to move in with my father. To appease my mother. So I agreed with it. Well, I ended up there. My stepmother, of course, has to butt her nose in, even though she's not my mother. Sit down, say the ground rules. If you're going to live in this house, you abide by our rules, blah, blah, blah. It's because my roommate was dealing drugs and renting out his car for money to a few different people per week. So that's where he made his money. I made my money the actual hard-working way, by working at a storage unit. And yet, I ended up with nothing. About $300 at the end. Because everything I had got stolen by the guy that broke into the house that night. He took all the money that I had saved up. I even had a replica of Excalibur. That when the cops were coming afterwards, after we got clear of these people and they took off, I had a replica of Excalibur. I got freaked out that I thought the cops were gonna see it and take it, even though it was mine. And I bent it and I threw it into the woods behind the guy's house. I have no idea if it was ever found. I panicked. Well, I lived with my father for about, I would say, a year and a half. This was about 2010. I got a job, a really good construction job, for a really prestigious company. Worked there for about a year and a half, 2 years. And after I decided to leave that for a plumbing job that went south because the business went under, I got another job working for another plumber, and he laid me off yet again. The second time in a row. It's where I got a job driving a tractor trailer over the road, all over the country. Got to see 40 plus states. But all I had while I was doing this was a cell phone. A simple flip phone. I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have music. Didn't have a tablet. I was in my head the whole time. Smoking cigarette after cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. Because they brought me peace and inner serenity and power. But I was by myself, sitting in a McDonald's in Chicago parking lot that's made for trucks. Crackheads running all around my truck. 2 a.m. in the morning. The door in my right doesn't actually work when it comes to the lock, so I had to wrap the seat belt around the handle and then tie it to the seat so that nobody could open the door in the middle of the night. Crying myself to sleep because of everything I was thinking. But it was fun to drive sometimes. Listening to Electric Eye, going 70 miles per hour on a highway, middle of the night, for about 70 miles. And then another 300 miles. Good pay. But after a while, I just couldn't do it anymore. I had to come home. Well, my stepmother kept picking on me. I gained weight. I was stress eating. I was living in a basement back room on a pull-out bed with a small TV and a Nintendo 64 and a laptop that I bought for myself with my money. Playing Skyrim for the first time back around 2010, 2011, something like that. I think that's when the game first came out. Oh, and I built a character. No guide. From the ground floor up. All the way. To the max level. Killed the Ebony Knight. Destroyed I think I did kill Parthenox. Sorry. That's when I met a girl. And I was in a bubble of depression. And a bubble of love. Stupid me. First chance I got. I moved in with her. And her family. Worst decision I ever made. because 5 years later, through nights of her punching me in the nuts for no reason and me just taking it, and nights of her mentally abusing me and calling me stupid in so many indiscriminate ways. And taking all of it, after 5 years, her family accused me of stealing my own fucking rent money. My own fucking rent money. And kicked me out. Where I moved in with one of my other good friends that I knew for a long time, who eventually turned out to be just my landlord. Dropped me off on his doorstep, gave me all my shit, most of which I just threw out because I was living on a couch. But I was there for about a year. Year of some of the most atrocious torture I've ever had to go through. Him playing music until 2 a.m., loud as hell to hear it through the floor. And picking on me, making fun of me. Having his friends come over and get drunk in the backyard and forcing me to clean it up because I couldn't pay for rent at the time. Banging on my door at all hours of night. Door to the living room. Until I met someone. Her name was Melanie. And she was my first real mistake that I ever made in my life. She was really good to me. She was a great woman who had a really beautiful, sweet daughter that was really young. And oh my God, I loved her. She was so cute. I love kids. I've always loved kids. I always wanted to have a kid. But stupid me, I went back to my ex, the one that I was with right before her, despite her family not liking it. I lost a lot of weight living at my landlord's house. I was walking everywhere, and I got a story about that. I ended up at the train station right before Montclair State University visiting a friend at 2 a.m., the last bus out. I was living again in Little Falls, but a different part of Little Falls. It was nice to be back in my hometown, but I just wish it was under better circumstances. So, I end up talking to her again. Meanwhile, I told Melanie, my ex, that I just couldn't do it anymore. After everything I had been through in my life, living in a small room in my friend's house, I took a look at my life, and for the first time ever, I had a complete nervous breakdown. I was shaking for 3 days, 3 nights. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. The light from outside in the mornings were killing me. Nothing seemed to make it better. And she was crazy about me. Melanie. I think I truly fell in love with her. Deeper than I ever had been in my life. And I couldn't come back right away from my attack. So out of panic, I ended it with her. Another mistake. And I went back to my ex. It's the most awful experience of my life. A lot of little details that I don't think I'll ever share with anyone. Just because I can't even come to bring them to words again. I can at least say that we were at a party together at a friend's house. Same friend that I'll tell you in a moment about the story about me going the last bus out. And she kept repeatedly hitting me in the head with a Rubbermaid container. And I just took it because fuck her. That's why. And then she got so drunk that she could barely drive home. And me being drunk but too stubborn to even give a shit, I drove her all the way home. Far enough until I was able to walk home on foot. I got the fuck out of the car, didn't say anything else to her, and I just walked home for an hour. From Wayne to Little Falls. Because fuck her. "5 years I was with her. And then another 6 months until I told her to get the fuck out of my house. I finally took a stand for myself. For the first time in my life. And I determined the course of my own life by telling her to leave. And for the first time I realized that my actions could have a reaction in my life. I was about 26. Shortly after I met my wife. And here comes the story of the better and worse half of my life. If you'd like, stay tuned for part 3.